Sarah Nolan, 32, and at the family dinner, my parents said I was lucky to work for the family after 5 years without a raise. Then they brought my sister in and paid her double. I'd turned our family's interior design business in Cleveland, Ohio, into a $10 million powerhouse, with my designs and systems pouring every ounce of myself into client wins and late-night projects. Yet at that dinner table, Dad's words hit like a punch, dismissing my years of sweat with a smug, "You've got it good, Sarah." Mom chimed in, her voice sharp, praising my sister's fresh energy while my contributions were swept aside. I gripped the table, my pulse racing as their words burned deeper than I could have imagined. 5 years of carrying their business, and they saw me as a footnote. That moment lit a spark, anger, defiance, a vow to stop being their shadow. I wasn't just their workhorse, I was done playing small. What followed was a whirlwind of confrontations, daring choices, and a power shift they never saw coming. Stick around to see how I turned their dismissal into my victory. If your family ever undervalued you, smash that like button and subscribe to catch every twist of this saga. Drop your story below. Let's talk about standing up and taking charge. Let me take you back to how I ended up in that dinner from chaos. For 5 years, I poured my heart into Nolan Designs, our family's interior design business in Cleveland, Ohio. When I started at 27, the company was a small outfit barely pulling in $5 million a year, with outdated designs and a clunky ordering system. I saw potential, so I rolled up my sleeves. I revamped our portfolio with modern minimalist aesthetics that clients loved, streamlined a digital ordering platform that cut wait times in half, and trained our team to handle high-end projects. By 32, I doubled our revenue to $10 million. Every late night, every client pitch, every redesign was my blood and sweat. But my parents, Paul Nolan and Janet Nolan, never saw it that way. To them, I was just helping out the family. Their pride and joy was my younger sister, Kaitlyn Nolan, 28, who could do no wrong. Growing up, Kaitlyn got new clothes, family-funded trips to Europe, and a shiny car for her 16th birthday. Me, I worked part-time jobs to pay my tuition at Cleveland State University, scraping by, while Kaitlyn posted selfies from Paris. As adults, nothing changed. Kaitlyn flopped at every job she tried, selling overpriced candles online, chasing clout as an Instagram influencer with barely 2,000 followers. Each time, Paul and Janet bailed her out, calling her creative or misunderstood. I'd grit my teeth watching them shower her with praise while my 12-hour workdays at Nolan Designs went unnoticed. The real kicker was how they treated my contributions. Once I landed a contract with a major Cleveland real estate developer designing interiors for 20 luxury condos, a deal worth $1.2 million. I presented the numbers at a staff meeting, expecting at least a nod. Instead, Paul shrugged and said, "Good work, but let's not get cocky." Janet chimed in, suggesting Kaitlyn could have added flair to the pitch, as if my data-driven proposal wasn't enough. Flair? Kaitlyn couldn't even read a balance sheet. Another time, I trained our designers Lucas and Jenna to use new 3D rendering software, boosting our project turnaround by 30%. Lucas, our project manager, and Jenna, our client liaison, became my right-hand team, delivering flawless work. But when I showed Paul the efficiency gains, he mumbled about team effort and changed the subject to Kaitlyn's latest business idea, some vague plan to sell custom coasters. The unfairness didn't stop there. Growing up, I'd come home from school to find Kaitlyn opening new gifts, designer bags, concert tickets, while I saved every penny for textbooks. When I got into college, Paul and Janet said they'd support me, but their support was a $500 check barely covering one course. Kaitlyn, meanwhile, got a fully funded gap year to find herself in Italy. I'd lie awake at night wondering why my hard work never measured up in their eyes. At Nolan Designs, I thought things might change. I thought doubling revenue would earn me respect. But every milestone I hit, every client won, every system improved, was met with indifference. Paul would pat my shoulder and say, "Keep it up, kid," while Janet would ramble about Kaitlyn's potential. Potential for what? Posting filtered photos of her coffee. My best friend Monica Vance saw it all. She worked at Elegance, a rival design firm, and would call me after work saying, "Sarah, you're carrying that company on your back." Monica urged me to stand up for myself, but I held back. I loved Nolan Designs, not just the business, but the clients, the team, the chance to create something beautiful. So I kept pushing, hoping one day Paul and Janet would see my worth. Deep down, though, the resentment grew. Every time Kaitlyn waltzed into the office tossing out half-baked ideas while Paul clapped like she'd reinvented the wheel, I felt my patience fray. I wasn't just fighting for a paycheck. I was fighting for recognition in a family that refused to give it. Little did I know that dinner would push me to my breaking point. 5 years of grinding, and I finally worked up the nerve to ask for what I deserved. I'd spent weeks crafting a report detailing how I'd doubled Nolan Designs' revenue to $10 million. My designs clinched a $1.2 million condo deal, my online ordering system cut delivery times by 30%, and my training turned Lucas and Jenna into a powerhouse team. I wanted my salary raised from $60,000 to $100,000, a fair ask for carrying the company. A family dinner at our Shaker Heights home seemed the perfect setting where the clink of wine glasses and glow of candles might make Paul and Janet listen. I clutched my report, its pages crisp in a navy folder as I stepped into the dining room, the air heavy with the scent of baked salmon and rosemary. Paul carved the salmon with precision, Janet arranged a platter of roasted vegetables, and Kaitlyn slouched in her chair scrolling her phone, her nails clicking against the screen. The table was set with Mom's heirloom plates, a rare touch of warmth in our tense family gatherings. I waited until we'd cleared the main course, the clatter of forks quieting, and took a deep breath. "Dad, Mom, I've been the backbone of Nolan Designs for 5 years," I said, sliding the folder toward them. "I doubled our revenue to $10 million, landed a $1.2 million condo deal, built the ordering system, and trained Lucas and Jenna. I'm asking for a raise to $100,000. I flipped open the report, pointing to a graph of soaring profits and a client testimonial calling my work visionary. Paul barely glanced at the pages, his eyes fixed on his wine glass. "Sarah, you're not seasoned enough for that kind of money," he said, his tone clipped like I was a child asking for a toy. Seasoned, I'd rebuilt their company from the ground up. I turned to Janet, hoping for a spark of support. She adjusted her napkin, her lips pursed. "You're lucky to work with family, Sarah," she said. "That's a privilege most don't have." Privilege. The word hit like a slap, stripping away my years of sweat. Kaitlyn let out a sharp laugh, her eyes still glued to her phone. "Yeah, Sarah, chill," she muttered, smirking as she typed. Her dismissal burned hotter than their words, a reminder of every time they'd propped her up while ignoring me. I gripped the table's edge, forcing my voice to stay calm. "That $1.2 million deal was my design," I said. "My systems keep clients coming back." Paul waved a hand, cutting me off. "One big project doesn't make you a leader," he said, his voice final like a judge's gavel. Janet nodded, her eyes soft but unyielding. "Be grateful for what you have, honey," she said, reaching for the dessert tray. Grateful they'd poured money into Kaitlyn's failed schemes while I begged for recognition. My hands trembled as I closed the folder, the weight of their rejection sinking in. I wanted to shatter the silence, to demand they see my worth. Instead, I said, "I know what I've earned, even if you don't," and stood to clear my plate, their voices fading behind me. In my apartment that night, their words looped in my head, each one a fresh wound. Monica had warned me they'd never value me, but hearing it over our family table surrounded by those heirloom plates cut deeper than I'd imagined. Lucas texted saying my training helped him seal a new client that morning. Jenna called raving about how my system saved a shaky deal. Their messages were a lifeline, but the anger churned inside a fire I couldn't douse. I wasn't done. If Paul and Janet wouldn't see my worth, I'd prove it at work, every design perfected, every late night spent, every client won. They'd regret dismissing me, and I'd make sure of it. A week after that meeting, they called a staff meeting that changed everything. I walked into the Nolan Designs office expecting a routine update. Instead, Paul stood at the front grinning like he'd won the lottery. Janet sat beside him, beaming. I took a seat next to Lucas and Jenna, who looked as confused as I felt. Paul cleared his throat and said, "We're thrilled to announce our new marketing director, Kaitlyn." My sister Kaitlyn strutted in, tossing her hair like she owned the place. Paul went on, "She's starting at $120,000, bringing fresh energy to our brand." My jaw dropped. $120,000. For Kaitlyn, who'd never touched a design project I'd been slaving away for $60,000, and she waltzed in with double my pay. The room went silent. Lucas shifted in his chair, muttering, "This is a joke, right?" Jenna raised an eyebrow, her pen frozen over her notebook. I couldn't breathe. Kaitlyn, with zero experience in interior design, was now in charge of our marketing. Her resume was a graveyard of failed ventures, selling knockoff sunglasses online, posting grainy Instagram selfies for 2,000 followers. Yet Paul clapped like she was a genius, and Janet gushed, "Her vision will take us to the next level." I wanted to laugh. Vision Kaitlyn's idea of marketing was probably a dance. Within days, Kaitlyn proved me right. She burned through $15,000 of company money, hiring a photographer to shoot her posing with furniture she didn't design. The photos were all about her sunglasses, coffee cups, not a single Nolan Designs logo in sight. Then she launched Instagram ads targeting teens in California, not our Cleveland clients buying luxury interiors. Orders dropped 10% in a week as customers complained about the tacky vibe. Lucas came to me fuming. "She's making us look like amateurs," he said, showing me a spreadsheet of delayed projects. Jenna was just as mad, saying clients were confused by Kaitlyn's random posts. I tried to stay calm, redirecting the team to fix her messes, but every dollar she wasted felt like a personal insult. I couldn't take it anymore. The unfairness, Paul and Janet handing Kaitlyn a title and a fat paycheck while ignoring my 5 years of results, was too much. I marched into Paul's office that Friday, heart pounding. "Dad, I'm done," I said. "I'm giving my 2 weeks' notice." His face froze. "Sarah, you can't just quit," he stammered. "We need you. Need me." They'd just crowned Kaitlyn their star. Janet rushed in, clutching her phone. "Honey, don't be dramatic," she said. "You're part of the family." I laughed bitterly. Family. You pay Kaitlyn double for nothing while I keep this place running. I turned and walked out, their protests fading behind me. That night, I called Monica, my best friend at Urban Elegance, the rival design firm across town. I poured out everything: Kaitlyn's hiring, the ridiculous ads, my resignation. Monica didn't hesitate. "Sarah, you're too good for this," she said. "Urban Elegance would kill to have you. I'll set up a meeting with their CEO tomorrow." Her words lit a spark in me. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Maybe I didn't have to stay in a place that undervalued me. Maybe I could build something better. As I hung up, I stared at my laptop, still open to Nolan Designs' latest botched ad, a photo of Kaitlyn pouting in a showroom chair. I closed it and started drafting my resume. 2 weeks, and I was out. 2 days after my resignation email, my phone started blowing up with job offers. Monica had come through just like she promised. She'd talked me up to the CEO of Urban Elegance, a sleek interior design firm in Cleveland that was eating up market share. I met their team in their downtown office, all glass walls and modern furniture, a far cry from Nolan Designs' dated showroom. They didn't waste time. After a 30-minute interview, they offered me a senior operations role, $90,000 a year, plus bonuses tied to project wins. That was $30,000 more than my old salary, with room to grow. I signed the contract that day, my hands steady for the first time in weeks. Urban Elegance wasn't just a job, it was a chance to prove I was more than lucky to work for family. I couldn't stop thinking about Lucas and Jenna, my team at Nolan Designs. Lucas, our project manager, had been juggling Kaitlyn's chaos, fixing her scheduling messes, while she posted selfies instead of plans. Jenna, our client liaison, was stuck explaining Kaitlyn's tacky Instagram ads to confused customers. They were as fed up as I'd been, so I called them for coffee at a diner near the office. Over greasy fries, I laid it out. "I'm starting at Urban Elegance," I said. "They're building something big and they want people like us." Lucas leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Kaitlyn's running projects into the ground," he said. "She reassigned my team to a photo shoot for her brand yesterday." Jenna snorted, tossing a fry. "She told a client our designs were vibes-based." I can't keep apologizing for her. I didn't have to pitch hard. Lucas was tired of Kaitlyn overriding his timelines, like when she demanded a rush job for a low-budget client, delaying a $500,000 project. Jenna was done with Kaitlyn's feedback on client pitches, like suggesting neon signs for a minimalist condo. "You're sure Urban Elegance is legit?" Lucas asked. I nodded. "Monica's there. They value results, not family ties." Jenna grinned. "I'm in. I want to work somewhere. I'm not cleaning up Kaitlyn's messes." Lucas agreed, saying, "If you're going, I'm with you." I told Monica, who arranged interviews for them the next day. Urban Elegance snapped them up. Lucas at $85,000 as a senior project lead, Jenna at $80,000 as client relations manager, both with bonuses. Better pay, better respect. We hit the ground running. My first week, I streamlined Urban Elegance's project pipeline, cutting coordination time by 20% with a new tracking system. Lucas took charge of a high-end residential project, delivering 3D renderings that wowed the client. Jenna landed a contract with a local hotel chain, her charm sealing the deal in one meeting. The CEO pulled me aside, saying, "You three are a powerhouse." It felt good, really good, to be valued. Meanwhile, I heard whispers from old Nolan Designs clients. They were frustrated, saying Kaitlyn's marketing was alienating them. One emailed me directly asking why our designs suddenly looked like teen influencer spam. I didn't respond, but I smiled. Kaitlyn was digging her own grave. Lucas, Jenna, and I became a tight unit. We'd brainstorm over lunch, tossing ideas for new design lines or client pitches. Monica joined us sometimes, her insider knowledge of Cleveland's market giving us an edge. In 2 months, our team brought in 3 major contracts worth $2.5 million combined. Urban Elegance's reputation soared, and so did ours. I'd lie awake some nights, not with resentment like before, but with excitement. I wasn't just surviving, I was building something. Leaving Nolan Designs wasn't the end. It was the start of proving what I could do when someone actually believed in me. Word travels fast in the design world, and Nolan Designs was becoming a laughingstock. Without me, Lucas and Jenna, the company unraveled faster than I'd expected. Kaitlyn, now in charge of marketing, was bleeding cash on pointless Instagram campaigns. She dropped $25,000 on a video series featuring herself, lounging in showrooms, lip-syncing to pop songs with zero mention of interior design. Clients emailed complaints, saying the videos looked like a teenager's vlog. One major client, a Cleveland property developer, pulled a $400,000 contract after seeing Kaitlyn's posts, calling them unprofessional. Orders plummeted, with returns spiking 15% because customers received wrong items or nothing at all. Kaitlyn didn't even notice, she was too busy planning her next brand shoot. Paul and Janet were clueless about the systems I'd built. The online ordering platform I'd designed, which cut delivery times by 30%, fell apart without my oversight. Paul tried to manage it but couldn't figure out the back end, leading to orders stuck in limbo. One customer waited 3 months for a custom sofa only to get a mismatched chair. Janet attempted to handle project timelines, but without Lucas, schedules were a mess. A high-end condo project missed its deadline by 6 weeks, costing Nolan Designs a $100,000 penalty. Clients who'd trusted us for years, 40% of our base, jumped ship to competitors like Urban Elegance. I heard from a former vendor that Paul was scrambling to apologize, but his calls went unanswered. Monica, still plugged into Cleveland's design scene, dropped a bombshell over lunch. Nolan Designs is drowning, she said, stirring her coffee. They owe the bank $2 million and vendors are refusing credit. She'd heard it from a supplier who'd worked with both firms. Kaitlyn's spending sprees, $30,000 on influencers who didn't even tag Nolan Designs, pushed the company deeper into debt. Paul and Janet were holding emergency meetings, but they had no plan. Monica smirked, saying, "Your sister's idea of a fix is a sponsored post with a candle brand." I shook my head, picturing Kaitlyn's clueless grin. Nolan Designs wasn't just failing, it was on the brink of collapse. Meanwhile, things at Urban Elegance were soaring. Lucas nailed a $1.5 million office redesign, delivering it a week early. Jenna secured a deal with a boutique hotel, her pitch so sharp the client signed on the spot. I overhauled their client feedback process, boosting satisfaction scores by 25%. Our team was unstoppable, and word got around. A local design magazine featured us, calling our work innovative and client-focused. The CEO clapped me on the shoulder, saying, "Sarah, you're raising the bar." It felt like vindication. Every late night I'd spent at Nolan Designs, every ignored report had led me here, a place where my work mattered. I didn't gloat, but I couldn't ignore the irony. Nolan Designs, the company I'd built into a $10 million operation, was crumbling under Kaitlyn's vision. Clients who'd once praised my designs now sent me LinkedIn messages asking to work with Urban Elegance. One wrote, "Your old place isn't the same without you." I replied politely, but inside I felt a quiet satisfaction. Paul and Janet had called me lucky to work for them, but luck had nothing to do with it. I'd earned my place at Urban Elegance while they let their golden child tank their legacy. 4 months after I left, my dad called me. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to answer. Paul's voice was shaky, nothing like the confident tone he'd used to dismiss me. "Sarah, we need you back," he said. "Nolan Designs is falling apart." Janet got on the line, her words rushed. "Kaitlyn tried, honey, but she's not you. We were wrong." I sat on my couch, staring at the Cleveland skyline through my apartment window. They were admitting their mistake, but it felt hollow after years of being overlooked. I let them talk, Paul about missed deadlines, Janet about angry clients, but my mind was racing. Nolan Designs was their mess now, not mine. Still, I saw an opportunity. "I'll only come back if you transfer full ownership to me," I said. There was a long pause. Paul stammered, "That's a big ask, Sarah." I didn't budge. "You're $2 million in debt. You need me more than I need you." Monica had tipped me off about the bank loans, and I knew they were desperate. After 48 hours of back and forth, they caved. The papers were signed at a lawyer's office downtown. Paul looked defeated, his tie loose. Janet clutched her purse, avoiding my eyes. Kaitlyn wasn't even there, she'd stopped showing up to the office. I walked out with the keys to Nolan Designs, feeling a weight lift. This wasn't just a company anymore. It was mine to rebuild. I called Lucas and Jenna that night. "I'm taking over Nolan Designs," I told them over dinner. "Want to come back?" Lucas grinned, saying, "Only if we do it right this time." Jenna nodded, her eyes bright. "No more Instagram disasters." We got to work. I scrapped Kaitlyn's branding, replacing it with a sleek campaign focused on our minimalist designs. Lucas streamlined project timelines, cutting delays by 40%. Jenna rebuilt client trust, winning back half the customers we'd lost with personalized pitches. I expanded our portfolio, adding eco-friendly materials that drew in younger buyers. We partnered with 3 major Cleveland developers, landing contracts worth $7 million in the first year. By year 3, Nolan Designs hit $15 million in revenue, surpassing its old peak. I didn't want Paul, Janet, or Kaitlyn starving despite everything. I set up a trust fund, allocating $30,000 a year for each of them, enough for basic living, nothing more. A lawyer handled the details. I didn't want contact. Monica told me Paul and Janet sold their big house in Shaker Heights and moved to a modest bungalow in Parma, a quiet Cleveland suburb. Kaitlyn, no longer the marketing director, took a part-time job at a boutique clothing store ringing up sales for minimum wage. I heard she still posted selfies, but her follower count hadn't budged. Their lives weren't glamorous anymore, and I didn't feel sorry. They'd chosen favoritism over fairness, and now they faced the consequences. Running Nolan Designs wasn't easy, but it was mine. Lucas, Jenna, and I worked late nights brainstorming over coffee, turning the company into something better than it had ever been. Clients praised our designs, and a national design award came our way in year 2. Every milestone reminded me of the lesson I'd learned the hard way: my worth didn't depend on my family's approval. I'd spent years chasing their validation, but building Nolan Designs and Urban Elegance before it proved I was enough. Injustice like theirs has a long shadow. Paul, Janet, and Kaitlyn learned that when you undervalue someone, you risk losing everything they bring. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you for sticking with me. It's been a journey of anger, growth, and triumph. I hope it shows you that your value isn't tied to what others think, even those closest to you. If you've faced unfairness, know that it doesn't define you. Your actions do. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up for your worth? Share your story below and let's keep the conversation going.